Hi, I'm Shaun Ludlow, and for those of you who haven't seen the previous videos in this series, check them out using the links below. Now, for all the exercises in this lesson, you need to make sure that you're blending and mixing your ghost notes in with the sound of the rest of your kit. Make sure those ghost notes are nice and quiet in comparison to everything else, and make those accents nice and loud and proud. So in this video, we're going to start with some triplet ghost note grooves. This first exercise has triplets on the snare all the way throughout. All of them are ghost notes except for beats 2 and 4, which are accents. Here it is for you. This next groove, exercise number 2, is similar to the last one, except we have a more shuffle style hi-hat pattern, where instead of just playing on the quarter notes, you're now playing on the quarter notes as well as the third triplet of every quarter note. So if you're counting the triplets, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, you're going to be playing it on the 1 and the let. So it'll be 1, let 2, let 3, let 4, like that. And then we're also going to add an extra bass drum in on the third triplet in beat 2. Exercise number 3 mixes 8th note unison strokes, which we have a whole exercise on in the first lesson of this series, with exercise number 2 for the second half of the bar. Here's a demonstration for you. So this next exercise, number 4, is something I use all the time in my playing. You play the first note of the triplet on the hi-hat, with the trip and the let on the snare drum as ghosted notes. You can, however, play that first quarter note pulse on the toms, the kick, literally anywhere, especially if you're doing fills. It's really nice to do. Now I'm going to play it for you. Okay, so there are some basic examples of how to use ghost notes in triplet grooves. Now we're going to move on to the jab punch, punch jab method, which I originally learned from Stephen Taylor, who's a great online educator and drummer. You should definitely check him out. And it's essentially a metaphor for ghost notes. So in boxing, you have the jab punch, which is essentially the jab is the first softer punch, and the punch is the one that's meant to knock them out. And then the punch jab the other way around. You have the harder and then the softer. So essentially, the jab punch is a ghost note followed by an accented note, and a punch jab is an accented note followed by the ghost note. Groove number 5 is a perfect example of a punch jab. This is because we have the accented note followed by the ghost note. You really want to make sure that that ghost note is the same volume as all of the other ghost notes you play, which is hard to do after that accent. And if you're struggling with it, make sure you play it nice and slow. And if you want an idea of how to play it a little bit better, check out the intro video in this series. So here's groove number 5 for you. Now groove number 6 is an example of a jab to punch, so the ghost note to the accented note. Make sure you start slow because going from a quiet note to a loud note can get really hard when you're up to speed. So groove number 7 involves a jab punch jab. So that's a ghost note followed by an accent note followed by another ghost note. You need to make sure that the ghost notes either side of that accent note, so both of the jabs, are the same volume as all of the rest of your ghost notes. Make sure they're nice and quiet and really focus on getting that accent to really pop so that you definitely know it's there. Other than that, the rest of this groove is just a mashup of some of the previous grooves we've learned throughout this lesson and the previous one. You shouldn't have any problems there. Okay, time for the final groove in this lesson. First off, we have a jab punch, not a jab punch, punch jab on beat 2. So beat 2 is accented, followed by a ghost note. Following that, we have a jab punch with the punch landing on the and of 3. Then after that, another punch jab on beat 4. So beat 4 is the punch, followed by the jab with the ghost note. Also, make sure you don't miss all of those kick drums which are in between. Here it is for you, slow, medium, and fast. I hope you gained something from this lesson, and don't stop there. Practice these exercises at tempos that suit you, but also change them. So change the surface. Maybe you want to move to your toms, or change the hi-hat patterns over to the ride or on the crash. You can also move around the ghost note patterns that I've used. Maybe add different foot patterns to make it more interesting to you. Also, apply the various different ghost note techniques, like the jab punch, punch jab thing, to fills that you want to use, or to some grooves that you already know. There are so many things you can do to make your practice interesting, so don't just stop here. Keep going, push further. Coming up in the next video, we're going to be adding ghost notes to your rudiments. And that's not just on one surface, like, adding ghost notes within a paradiddle on one pad. We're also going to be adding them to rudimental grooves. So stay tuned for that one, and make sure you like and subscribe if you're enjoying the series so far. See you next time.